You know that feeling, right? You're staring at this huge pile of research data, it's full of fascinating stats, but you have absolutely no idea what to do next. Well, you are not alone. In this explainer, we're going to break down how to turn those fuzzy, vague business problems into sharp, solvable questions that actually get you results. Let's dive in.
This quote from the inventor Charles Kettering, this is really the key to everything we're going to talk about. It gets to a simple truth. The secret to powerful research isn't about having the fanciest methods or the biggest budget. Nope. It's all about starting with a crystal clear understanding of the problem you're really trying to solve.
So, that begs the question, doesn't it? If just stating the problem well is half the battle, why do so many research reports just end up collecting dust on a shelf? Well, the answer almost always comes down to the gap between the research we're doing and the actual decisions we need to make.
To get to the bottom of this, we're going to follow a clear 5-step path. First, we'll talk about what it means to have a problem half solved. Then, we'll get into a great tool for mapping out customer experience gaps. From there, we'll see how to turn those gaps into really powerful questions. And finally, how to pick the perfect research method to get the answers.
Okay, first up, a problem half solved. Here's the main idea. When research projects fail, it's almost never the fault of the research method itself. The real failure happens way earlier, long before you send a single survey or book a focus group. It happens when you first frame the business problem.
So here's the absolute key takeaway. For your customer research to be effective, it has to be tied directly to a specific business decision you need to make. Without that link, you're pretty much just gathering data in the dark, hoping you stumble across an answer by accident.
So how do we actually define the problem the right way? Well, that brings us to our next section and a really practical tool. We're going to look at mapping the entire customer experience to find exactly where things are breaking down.
And take a look at this. This is called the gap model. Each one of these bars represents a different stage in your customer's journey, from just hearing about you all the way to buying from you. And that lighter part of the bar, that's the gap. It's basically a map showing you exactly where you're losing customers along the way.
Let's make this real. What's a value gap? This happens when a potential customer looks at your product and they just don't see how the benefits are worth the cost. Maybe a car buyer sees a car with all these fancy self-driving features and thinks, that's kind of cool, but it's not worth an extra 10 grand to me. That feeling right there, that's a value gap. Or how about a purchase gap? This one is painfully familiar to anybody in e-commerce. It's when a customer decides to buy something, they even put it in their online cart, and then they just leave. That failure to turn a definite yes into a final sale, that's a classic purchase gap.
And this is where the real power of this model comes in. When you can actually measure your biggest gaps, you're not guessing anymore. The gap model gives you a clear roadmap. It shows you exactly where to focus your time, your money, your resources to get the biggest bang for your buck.
Okay, so finding the gap, that's the diagnosis. But a diagnosis isn't a cure. Now we have to turn that diagnosis into a really focused question. This is how we build the bridge from knowing where the problem is to understanding why it's even happening.
Just look at the difference here. On the left, you've got this super broad goal, we need to reduce churn. That's not really a research question, is it? But using our gap model, we can transform it into something sharp, like what's on the right. What are the key drivers of our loyalty gap, specifically among our first-year customers? All of a sudden, we have a question that's focused, it's specific, and we can actually go out and research it. So what is it that separates a good research question from a truly great one? Well, it turns out there's a pretty simple framework we can use to make sure our questions will always lead to insights we can actually use.
And here they are. A great research question has to have these 4 qualities. It's got to be relevant, actionable, concrete, and simple. Think of it like a 4-point checklist you can run every question through to make sure it's going to deliver real value. And trust me, you need all 4 of them. Relevant means it ties directly back to that business gap you found. Actionable means the answer you get will point you toward a clear next step. No more shrugging your shoulders wondering what to do. Concrete means you can actually measure it with data. And simple just means you're asking one thing at a time so you don't muddy the waters. Now, once you have that perfectly crafted question, the final piece of the puzzle just clicks right into place. The question itself basically tells you which research method to use. And this is so important. You don't pick your favorite method and then try to make a question fit. It's the other way around. You let the question guide you to the right tool for the job.
Your question is going to point you in one of three main directions. If you're asking a why or how question about something new, you'll use exploratory research to come up with some initial ideas. If your question is something like, does X cause Y, you're going to need experimental research to prove it. And if you're asking how many or what percentage, you'll use descriptive research to get the numbers. See, the question points the way.
So there you have it. That's the whole framework, from a foggy business problem all the way to a specific, actionable research plan. The only question left is the one you need to answer. Looking at your own customer's journey, which gap? Is it awareness, value, purchase, or loyalty? Which one holds the single biggest opportunity for your business right now? That is your starting point.